Hello, hello, hello. It's your new day with Donna Reiners and Dr. Cami Owen, where we solve all the world's problems, or maybe just one. And maybe it's yours. In our 30 minutes, we talk about your emotions and mind and how they tie into your body and spirit. We want you to renew and restore yourself in a world that wants you crazy. And sometimes we even talk about money. Introducing your hosts, Donna Reiners and Dr. Cami Owen. Hello, hello, Donna and
Dr. Cami.
And we're just going to keep on rocking.
Yes.
So we're talking about how years later, I recognize that had I remained, and for me, I'm not going to use the word frequency, but had I remained relationally in the tapestry that I was in, if I had clung to it, if I'd have been so devastated, and I had just come off of being devastated by a situation. I'd been at one church for 22 years. And I went through, watching some people die, and I went through some devastation, but nobody really knew. I just knew what I was going through. And I, we've all experienced things. We've all experienced devastation some side or another. So I just realized, if I was still in those situations relationally, I would not have grown the way I have the last few years. I don't think I would have. I think that, how do I say this? I wouldn't be doing a TV show, I don't think. Whether it was with Dr. Cami or myself, I don't think I would have been. I don't think that I would have started my coaching business again. I don't think I would be training as a practitioner in this thing. I don't think I'd be going to school to be board certified in some holistic areas. I don't think I would have gone in this direction. I think that I would still just be bebopping around with very little intention in my life other than helping people. But now I have an intention that takes me down a road versus helping people. Because out there is all the noise, but this is intuitive. This is like, and this is hard. Now I'm doing something hard. That was easy. This is hard. You know what I mean? You're like, change your language. But what I mean by that, this is
mind-melding with me.
I know. I'm like, I can feel it. Like, it's only hard if you want it to be hard. Like, fine, whatever. Anyway, and you can do it. I remember I asked her, when I first started, she goes, I asked her, how long did it take you to go through? She goes, I was finished in a month. I said, just shut up. I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Because, she remembers. And I am still gaining my memory back, I guess. Anyway, the point is, you can be devastated, but if you can tune in, you can move forward. And even though it may feel alone, because aloneness is real. I'm watching my precious sister. We won't go backwards into that, but I'm watching my sister. Part of the reason why her life has broken down is because when she stopped being able to travel to other people, she stopped being convenient. She stopped being a convenient friend. She stopped being a friend who could meet you out at the Prickly Pear and go out drinking, or go meet you out for dinner, or pay for lunch here, whatever. She became the friend that moved toward the season of isolation. And that is one thing I would say church gives you.
Community.
Some type of community. Even if you don't agree, don't believe the same. If you can believe what you believe and not be inundated by the messages that sometimes are not what you believe, you could still have some kind of a net of people who care about you, see? And even people mock this. I've heard grace people mock this, and I'm like, I don't mock this. They mock the Catholics with the rosary. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's an organized way of praying. I love that. They have intention for every single bead. I mean, that's more than all this popcorn prayer does. And the people that have the prayer list, the Baptists, they got the good old prayer chain going on. But you know what? Those men and those women they are sincere. I'm telling you, God hears. God hears. So it's all about intention and tuning in and letting the past go. It took me a while to let go of that past, man. I'm just telling you, because the devastation of, and you know what? Let's just be real. The devastation of feeling like either the people never loved you, or they only loved you as far as they wanted to, which was less than you thought they loved you, you see. Or feeling like you're too much trouble, not the effort to love you. Or, I mean, I'm just throwing out scenarios. I'm sure something's hitting with somebody. Or you have this unconditional love for them where you have loved and loved and loved and loved through their deepest, darkest, most horrible moments, accusations or whatever. And then basically be thrown under a mat and walked on. So I'm sure somebody's gone through something like that. But at the end of the day, what I confronted myself with was, well, if I really loved them unconditionally, that wouldn't bother me. I mean, I had to really come straight up and get serious with myself. Wow. So when I was going through the devastating time that whole year, I thought, wow, had I had people coming in and out all year long, I would not have tapped in the way I did. I'd have been distracted by all the thoughts and ideas and the community I had. Not that we don't need community, but you see, it's a double-edged sword. But it's not alone or not alone. It's tune in.
Yes. Yes, tune in, because I think that's one of the biggest messages here is you have all the information. You don't require a savior. You really don't require this external savior, because that savior is already inside of you, and you don't have to look outside of you. Some people need a little push, as I often say at my clinic. I'm going to push you out of the mud a little bit. Like, think of the car that's got the wheel spinning, and I'm going to push you out of the mud, and then you're going to take off. And that's what we're doing. So you can push yourself out of the mud, but sometimes it takes somebody else to nudge you a little bit.
Sure, we need help. We do need help, each other.
Yes, we do. But the one thing that I think we forget is that we're not separate. We're all more similar than we are different. Like, really. And so if we can see that and see the thing that really pisses you off about somebody else
is the same thing inside of you.
It's the thing inside of you that you cannot be with. So it's going to keep being reflected back to you.
I had that in a situation right now with one person. Well, no, just one person. And I really had to come to grips with, wow, the real truth is that person has discarded me. And if I was really honest about it, it's not about me. They've discarded themselves. Because when I look at that situation, I realize we are very similar. And that's what hurt me the most. It was the discarding of me. But as you get clear, you realize, wow, they have the same problems you have. They're discarding themselves by shutting me out. I'm like, wow, this is deep stuff, people.
Yes. Is there any place in you that you're discarding you?
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I've had to really look at, for me, I've had to look at my strengths, because I know my weaknesses. Some people just know their strengths and don't know their weaknesses. I know my weaknesses. I'm cognizant that my greatest weakness is also my greatest strength.
Yes.
And so for me, it is double-edged. My mouth is, I'm like, I made an effing contact in fifth grade. Conduct in fifth grade. I'm like, my mouth, hello. But it's also my greatest strength. It's the thing that I get in the down in the dirt with you and pull you up with a voice that knows how to tap in and knows how to say, no, you will live and not die. I mean, that's who I am. I know who I am. I know what I bring in that space where you feel like you're not going to make it. You know, I'm like, oh, no, you will make it. And if you don't make it, it won't be because you didn't do all you know to stand or have somebody with you that didn't know what they did to stand. Because at the end of the day, there is a day when we move in to the next space. But it's not till it's time. Right. Sometimes we need to, like you do in your clinic.
Yes.
It's not your time, you know.
Right. And it's funny you say that. What I was sitting here thinking, I have a lot of weaknesses. I'm very clear of that. But one of the weaknesses that's my greatest strength is my bluntness. You know, I can be very blunt, and it can, you know, I've heard people, you know, comes across as too much, and so my too muchness can be too much.
That's why we get along so well.
Yes, but at the same time, I don't really care if it's too much, because, you know, in those situations, it's literally like I see you running off into the traffic.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to just stand here and go, man, they should not go in the traffic. That's a different way of being than going and grabbing you and saying, don't go in the traffic. And you're like, I want to go in the traffic. Okay, then I'm going to let you go in the traffic. But I'm going to sit here and watch it. And after you get run over by the car, I'm going to run over and help you. That's I'm
right.
going to do.
That's unconditional love right there.
And I'm going to hopefully somebody will stop some of the other cars so I don't get run over too. But I will run in the traffic after you fully knowing, because I told you, you're going to run in the traffic, you're going to get hit by a car, and then watching, okay, you want to get hit by a car, you need that experience. I don't know. Maybe, you know, maybe that's what you need. But once you get run over by the car, I'm going to go and help you after that. So being able to be okay.
If they'll let you help them.
Yes. That was my next comment. To be okay with they may not want you to help them. Being okay with you might not be the right person to help them. Because I'm very clear that, you know, I hear this in my clinic all the time. I'll talk to somebody and they're telling me everything and we're having a dialogue, and I get up and leave, and then they start barraging the staff with all these questions because I'm too scary. I don't occur to myself as scary at all, but I hear that over and over and over that I'm scary.
Oh my God, it just dawned on me. The first time I met with her, I cried too. I'm sorry, I'm having this epiphany. I totally remember sitting in her office in that room. I see it. Craig was there too, and I'm like crying. I'm like, oh my God, are we in couples therapy? What has happened to us? Anyway, years later, it's all good. But I literally just remember, oh yeah, I did. I cried right there, just like that.
Yes, and just being okay with however it shows up, and not being attached to an outcome, because that
is the devastation. Oh my God, that brings devastation.
Yes, it does when you're attached to an outcome, because you're only seeing the view from here.
And your own how your own heart is connected.
Yes, and this is what's possible. So, you know, I'm praying for this thing. I want this thing. I set the intention for this thing, but I'm so, you know, attached to it looking this way that you will miss it completely when it's right here and even bigger than you could ever think. You know, people. I need this job, or I need to make this amount of money, or I need to look this certain way, and then when it doesn't, you feel like, you know,
either what's wrong with me or what the heck happened.
Yeah, what the heck?
Why didn't get what I wanted?
and what you miss completely is this opportunity that was way bigger than you could have ever imagined.
And I had that years ago. Craig and I were married, and I interviewed for this job, and it looked like I had it, and everything was good. And it was to write for a newspaper. And I even wrote an article for them. Went and did the interview, wrote the article. They published it. And then all of a sudden they said, oh, yeah, we forgot there's just one little thing you have to do, because everybody has to do this one little thing. And it was this little 3-question test. 3 questions. I'm pretty sure it was only 3 questions. I'm like, so I did the 3 questions. And the next day I got a letter from them revoking their offer.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Thanks, but no thanks. And I thought, it was so conflicting. It was really like, what do you mean? of course, pissed him off. It's like, what do you mean? You had the job. And even there was an elder at our church that was very kind to us and kind. I mean, he's like, I think you've got that job. We were really looking at it, and I didn't get that job. But do you know that year I published 2 books?
Yeah.
That I would not have done because that job, even though it was part-time, would have taken probably 40, 50 hours of my time every week. It was not what it said it was.
Yeah.
You know? And so that was kind of devastating. It's like, well, I have the skill set. I have more than the capability of it. I'm an excellent writer. I mean, I had all these things that I knew were my strengths. But that was not for me. Mm-hmm. And I thank God for it now.
Yes.
But at the time, it's like I could just see this was a shut door, but it was all of this that was opened up to me. And we wouldn't be doing this today, I don't think. Mm-hmm. I think I probably would have run with that, and my career would be in writing, which I love to write. And I still have a book waiting to be published. But still, it would have taken me in a corrupt direction.
Yes.
Because it
was in that
the media.
That realm.
Yes.
Yes. And so you were just like pushed back. Same thing with me in medicine, you know? And you know, when I first started, I was going to go the traditional route straight into medical school. To become
a medical doctor.
Physician, yes.
Physician.
And just block after block after block kept happening. And I carried that devastation, if you will, for many, many years. Like I'm a failure and I didn't make it how I was, had envisioned it. I could not be in the place I'm in now had I gone that route. Because I would have been so indoctrinated in that world that I would have never been able to. Even in my academic career, as it started, I was already disruptive in that. I know you can't possibly believe that happened, but it was funny. I was sitting in the back. There was 5 of us that would sit in the back, and we'd be. One was a airline pilot that was a commercial airline pilot back when Braniff, I think it was, went on strike, and he crossed the picket line. So then he was dead in the flight world after that. Said it completely changed careers, and he decided to go to nursing school. So he did that.
Switch!
And then there was another guy that initially came to nursing school to meet women. And then he said it's also because it was indoors and it was in air conditioning because he had worked on a oil fill rig for years. Anyway, so these are very conservative, different places in their life. You know, and most of the nurses in there were fresh out of high school, just a skull full of mush, just waiting to absorb. And we were back there like, no, I don't think so. So I got shushed so many times in school. I mean, literally, shh, or don't talk, or don't. I'm like, why? I kept.
You're paying the same.
Yeah.
Why can't you?
It's like, why? And it was really comical now that I think about it. I was pushing back from the system from day one. I needed to have those required information, but at the same time, I was pushing back the whole time. And even in the hospital, when I'd work in the emergency room, I remember calling my husband several times going, I think I'm going to get fired today. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get fired today. Because when you would say something that was just in my world wrong, like what I could be with or not be with, I would have to say something, and sometimes people didn't like hearing what I had to say, because in that world, when I was still a nurse, it was very okay for doctors to be verbally abusive to nurses. And I remember, looking at, and we were struggling financially. It wasn't like I could just go, I'm just quitting this job and we're going to be fine. No, I needed the job like the next person. But I remember specifically having this doctor yelling at me in the middle of a code. I don't even remember why, but he was yelling at me and screaming at me. And I looked at him, I stopped, I go, you know what? My daddy doesn't talk to me like that. My husband doesn't talk to me like that. I don't share toilet paper with you, where you have any authority to have any permission to talk to me like that. So you are not allowed to talk to me like that. And he looked at me like nobody had ever stood up to him before.
I'm sure they haven't.
And I called my husband. I think I'm gonna get fired today, because this was a big guy in this hospital.
Right.
You know what? He was my best friend after that.
I bet.
He was completely different to me after that. But he would still do it to other people. I'm like, why are you doing that? Stop it. You know, you don't get the best out of people like that. But I also know that that's how they were trained in the medical community, in school. It's the same.
Doctor is God.
Well,
right?
But
they have that kind of authority.
As a medical student, you were below somebody's shoe. You know? So it's the same exact mentality or method that they do in the military. Is they break you down completely, so they can build you up. So they want to take away all thought process or discernment, because they need you to just be on the program of do as we say, and this is how you do it, and we don't want you thinking. If you think your physician has critical thinking, they do not.
No.
Because if they do, they are ostracized outside of the herd. As soon as COVID was one of the biggest places we saw that, like in our face, that these doctors that I would talk to, it's like, in your entire life, have you ever treated a respiratory illness like this? Like, I hadn't really thought about that. Why not? You know, you're a smart person. You're really smart. Why haven't you thought of that? Because they've been programmed to not think. And they're in this standard of care model where you have to do it like we say. If you think of anything else, then we will yank your license, and that'll be the end of you. And they have the, big house payment and big car payment and the medical school bill still that they're paying for. So they've got them. And I just didn't care about any of that. Even when, I got to that point where, I have a license that they can come take it. Okay. If you feel like you need it, go ahead and take it. And I will still keep doing what I'm doing. I don't really care, but I really don't. And that's probably a weakness as well.
Well,
not
no.
play.
It's called being dangerous. I had the same thing in the religious section. So she's talking about being compliant without thought.
Yes,
that's compliance, and that's found in the religious world, which is what I buck. I buck the compliance without thought jazz. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. But it's just this narrow lane of dogmatism. So are you dogmatic? If you are dogmatic, which means this is all you can see. And sometimes it's a positive thing. Again, this is a strength and weakness thing. So when you believe this, that's awesome. But when you believe this, you can't hear these options.
Yes.
You can't hear a thought that's not compliant to what you think. See, my daddy was military for over 30 years. And so he was at Pearl Harbor, and that's what they did. I mean, they break you down, and you just believe whatever they tell you. So our family grew up with that type of thing, and then he found God, but really he found religion, even though he did find God, because my daddy was in very life-threatening situations many times, and so he had an intimate place inside where he heard the voice, but yet he needed the system. Listen to me. There's a system of belief in the religious world, the medical world, the political world, the corporate world. It is a system of belief. In the network marketing world, whatever world you're in, if it is a duplicatable system, if it's duplicatable, it's a system. And we all need duplication. And that's awesome. But when the duplication removes your permission to have a thought that takes you into a direction that will either personally grow you, personally grow the people you're with, develop your character, develop your finances, develop your health, if it takes you outside of that system, that's when people that are only believing in the system will go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you being rebellious?
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing what you're told? Oh, why don't you get on the train with everybody else? Millions of people later are dead. I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm just saying, let's not be the generation who forgets that compliance without thought is death.
Yes. And that system, not only will they shun you and think of it like a herd, and then they put you out of the herd, they turn on you and attack you.
And accuse you.
Attack you.
Because you're being rebellious.
Yes. Because that's also setting the standard of everybody in the herd. This is what happens.
Do what you're told.
This is what happens if you're outside of the herd. We're going to come get you.
That's right.
We're going to annihilate you. Character, physical, whatever it is, we're going to annihilate you.
And make it all about what you've done wrong.
Yes, yes.
Anytime you can shift blame to somebody else,
And that's,
so that you shine brighter.
And that's gaslighting too.
Oh, yes it is.
So, yes.
So there's a system of belief that most people have been in one point in time in their life, right? You can recognize it if you can have a new thought. We just want to encourage you to find the thought deep within, not because it violates the system, but because that's the intimate world that has your back. Mm-hmm. That's the one that shows you the window of escape. That's the one that says, hey, if you take this road, you won't be there when that company shuts down. If you'll take this, you're going to avoid a lawsuit. If you take this, et cetera, et cetera. So we just bless you and appreciate you, and we'll see you in our next show with who knows what we'll talk about.
Thank you for joining Your New Day with Donna Reiners and Dr. Cammie Owen. We look forward to seeing you next time. Remember, we solve all the world's problems, or maybe just one, and maybe it's yours. Until soon.
We invite you. It is on Roku at 10:30 a.m. on Wednesdays. We look forward to seeing you there. Bye-bye.